Hello and welcome to Brand X Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Batman movie. I say new Batman movie, this is like way far off getting released at the moment. Apparently it's out in September of 2021, so it's actually over a year away. I think it's like September 30th, 2021 or something, and that's if everything goes to plan, because obviously we've been having a lot of delays with things lately. Now I'm going to kind of get into the specifics of the trailer in just a minute, but I'm just going to go over some of the things that we know. I'm kind of using IMDb as a reference here. It's not scientific, but some of the information on here is kind of written in stone. So obviously the film is out September 2021. This is the first trailer that we've had released. Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne Batman, obviously. Some of the other cast list is quite interesting. I keep forgetting, just because of how things have been put on hold lately, who's actually in this and who they're playing, because it's quite an impressive cast list, to be honest. Zoe Kravitz playing Selina Kyle, Catwoman. Colin Farrell playing Oswald Cobblepot. You actually see him in the trailer briefly in this, and he's absolutely unrecognisable. Obviously he's got kind of prosthetic makeup or whatever to make him look that way. But yeah, I wouldn't have known it was him if somebody else hadn't pointed that out. Paul Dano as Edward Nashton. Andy Serkis playing Alfred Pennyworth. Peter Skarsgård is in it as a district attorney. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Obviously Falcone was in Batman Begins as well, if you remember. He was a guy that got pinned to the spotlight, which kind of inspired the Bat Signal. Jeffrey Wright, interestingly, playing Commissioner Gordon. Really good actor as well. Obviously this being 2020 and everything, race is like a thing, and they've obviously race swapped him, but to be honest they did the exact same thing with that actor with Felix Leiter in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Did anyone notice? Did anyone care? No, because he's like a really good actor, and that primarily overrides things. So I don't think this is anything about going woke or anything like that. I mean, I know that's a real thing and a serious thing, but again, I don't think that this is a factor in that, because he's such a good actor. He's got a lot of range is what I mean. He can play a lot of different kind of characters. But yeah, there's a few other things anyway. Let's get into the trailer and let's have a quick look at that. Right, so a new trailer for the Batman movie has dropped, and it's no secret to any of the people that follow my channel or my social media accounts on Brand X Reviews that I was no fan of the DC franchise in terms of the Justice League movies. I'm not a hater, I like DC, I just think that they're really messed up with that, and I'm not alone in that opinion. Last year's Joker movie I thought was pretty good, to be fair, and I think that the success of that has pretty much shown that the secret going forward is to do at least standalone movies or just to do some kind of new connected universe. So this Batman trailer seems to be back on course anyway. Now, Robert Pattinson obviously is playing Batman. There was some concern about him because of previous things he's worked on. To be honest, I think any actor or even like a musician or whatever can reinvent themselves, so we'll see. Now, this movie is out in 2021 apparently, if everything goes to plan. But the trailer dropped this morning. It did show certain things like this. We've seen photographs, leaked photographs of this kind of thing before, and it really got us intrigued. It's been quite a while since anything's kind of come out. This photograph, really interesting. This is Colin Farrell as the Joker, the Penguin, sorry. Pretty much unrecognisable as the Penguin. So let's just see anyway the actual trailer. I've had to kind of like copy it off here so I don't get flagged by YouTube or anything, but yeah, it opens up with this shot, and obviously we'd seen that image leaked previously, along with some information that this movie is going to primarily focus on the Riddler as the main villain. Jeffrey Wright here playing Commissioner Gordon, a great actor, I'm pretty sure it'll be good. And this is Batman's first year, so this is like year one I suppose, so he's fresh out on things. We've seen this before. He's getting riddles, obviously, from the Riddler after all this stuff's happening, and they've called on the Batman to look into things. The costume looks really great. It's armour plated, obviously. Some of the previous ones kind of moved away from that direction. Obviously, the Ben Affleck one wasn't as obviously armour plated as previous ones, but they seem to have gone back to that look established in previous films. So some kind of funeral going on. The Riddler sends a car through, and Bruce Wayne obviously is there. Again, that's Colin Farrell as the Penguin. You only see him briefly, but again, just unrecognisable. So quite interesting. It does seem like Batman is working with the police in this, not necessarily in the same capacity that we saw in the 60s series where he might as well be wearing a badge, but in this one it just seemed like there's a bit more cooperation. This was a scene where it's pretty violent, so again, not so much marketed for kids. Not that any of the previous ones have been really, but we'll see. The Batmobile itself is really cool. It's kind of described as a muscle car, and looking at the trailer for this really does show that. There's some shots here that are very reminiscent of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy as well. Obviously Batman using the grapple gun in the middle of a staircase. I don't know if that's intentionally calling back to the Christopher Nolan movies, but the feel of this is very gritty. The colour palette on it is great. Obviously I'm talking about the look of the movie. Well, let's not kid ourselves. The Batman vs Superman trailer, which came out around about 5 years ago, looked amazing. Unfortunately the film itself didn't deliver, but all we've got here to go off is what we've seen in the trailer, so obviously that's all I can really talk about. Now obviously from what I was saying before, this seems to be a standalone movie, definitely not connected to the DC universe. It's kind of tricky because we call it the DC Extended Universe now, so they can kind of do Elseworld stories and it's kind of connected, but it's not. This does, from what I understand, does not connect to the Justice League movie. It's not a prequel, it's not the origins of Ben Affleck's Batman character. This is a new take. I don't know if this is going to be connected to the Joker movie or not. I can kind of see that happening, although it would be a bit weird because obviously that film was set quite a long time in the past. We're talking like decades, like 1980s kind of feel to it. This Batman film is set in the present day, so I don't know if there's supposed to be any kind of connectivity, like for example if that Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix was like an original Joker that inspired some new Joker that Batman's going to go up against. I don't know if that's the case or not. Whether or not that's been like said that is or isn't true, we can't really go off that because a lot of information is a bit sketchy at this point, so we can argue either way. But very interesting trailer anyway, that's for sure, and there's no denying that this does look really good. So we will see when the actual film comes out. It's not actually out until September 2021 again, and that's if everything goes to plan. So we'll see about that, but really looking forward to this coming out because I'd kind of written off not just DC but just superhero movies in general. Even the Marvel stuff, I'm not really happy with the direction that they're going, taking things forward with that. I think in the future I'm generally going to call myself more a fan of the Infinity Saga. That's pretty much phases 1 to 3, rather than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just because a number of directions that they're taking that thing in really, I think, make me want to just check out that thing entirely. So it would be interesting if the DC properties in terms of what we see on screen take over from Marvel, at least not necessarily in terms of box office success or critical success, but maybe just fandom in general. It might be that they get a lot more respect than Marvel do going forward, but we'll see. This is all theory. So anyway, I'll pretty much leave it there. I've rambled on. Let's just cut back to normal video. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by everything that I've seen with that. Obviously, having written off not just the DC but just generally superhero movies in general, I kind of feel like the superhero genre, in that it came back. Obviously there were superhero movies and a lot of them were very good in previous decades, but I seem to think that the golden era has come and gone now. I could be wrong. This could prove me wrong. I'm not saying we're not going to have any good superhero movies ever again, but I think just that sort of intense phase that we had from sort of, I mean, I suppose the MCU started in 2008, but the real intensity of it, where you were getting like several of them a year and they were all just really good, was something of the last decade, 2010 to 2020 kind of thing, or 2019, kind of rounding off with Avengers Endgame, which on so many levels was a success. I think that really has peaked things. Like I say, I'm sure we will get other decent ones, but I think just in terms of that craze, and it was earned as well because they were very good, has really kind of worn off. I know everything that's been going on at the moment, it's very easy to say that things have slowed down because we haven't been getting any movies, and obviously the production of movies means we're not going to get quite as many for quite some time. But this is one that, looking at the trailer and also from what I know of the film, has got my hopes up. As I've said, previous trailers have shown things before where, you know, it looks good, and the actual movie itself can look good when it comes out, but in terms of what we get in terms of content and legitimate quality, is really something that is a different question as to what the trailer gave us. I'm just having a quick look through the trailers to see if there's any final thoughts on this, anything I haven't mentioned so far. Obviously, it uses quite heavily throughout the trailer the Nirvana song, Something in the Way, so they're kind of, obviously a good song anyway, but in general, but they're kind of going for a grungy look to it. And if you look at Bruce Wayne as well in this, he's got kind of like longer hair. It's kind of reminiscent of, like Nicolas Cage says in The Rock, it's a grunge thing. So I think that's kind of the look that they're going for. Not the look of that music from Seattle in the 1980s and 90s, but just that kind of beaten down look to it, where everything kind of sucks. But and I'm a big fan of grunge, to be fair. I'm not like saying that that's all that music had to offer was just depressing shit. I know some people say that. One other thing that I thought was quite interesting, it shows Bruce Wayne with his eyes kind of like blacked up with makeup, which would make sense because if you look at all the other Batman movies, his eyes are always covered up by paint, so that he's not just got these like big sort of white eyes in contrast to the cowl or whatever. We actually saw that in Batman Returns, where it's a continuity area, obviously, where he takes the cowl off. Underneath, he's got no sort of eye makeup on, which you can clearly see he is wearing. And I think they did that with all the other Batman characters to a certain degree. But in this one, like I say, that's just, as you can see from the screen there, that's the look that he's got with that kind of look to him. So it does seem like it's quite a rogues gallery, this as well. Obviously, Catwoman is in the trailer as well, played by Zoe Kravitz. So, and obviously there's the Penguin, as I've kind of said throughout this, played by Colin Farrell. And who knows what else. Some people have been saying that they thought that the villain in this was Hush because of the way that what you see on here does look a lot like Hush with all the kind of like bandages and stuff. I don't know if there were bandages in this or whether it was some kind of like very low-tech mask. But kind of like the Scarecrow had in the Batman Begins movie. But beyond that, I don't think it is Hush. I don't think Hush is actually in this. It's the Riddler is the actual main villain from what I've seen anyway. One other thing, and this isn't so much to do with the trailer, but obviously Robert Pattinson, it got reported a few months ago that during everything that's been going on with lockdowns and so on, he'd been, from what I understood, he was confined to a hotel for quite a while, and his personal trainer throughout this project had basically had to leave him to it, and he just gave him like a few small weights and no machines or anything like that, and just said, just look after yourself, here's some weights, keep in shape. And from what I understand, Robert Pattinson had come out and said that he wasn't keeping in shape, and that it doesn't really matter. To a degree, I agree with that, because obviously Michael Keaton and a lot of these other ones, they weren't, but they still kind of passed, they looked the part when they had the costume on and so on. But I don't know if that's going to create any consistency issues with the movie. They'll have to kind of edit around it if there's any kind of drastic, in some bits of the film he's like in good shape, and then in other bits he's kind of let himself go a bit. I suppose he could work with that in some ways, but we'll see anyway. So I really have covered a lot of my thoughts on this, so I'll cut this video short here, but we'll keep an eye on this as things progress. And hopefully when the film comes out it's going to deliver, because that trailer had a lot of promise in it. So let's just wait and see. Let's be optimistic. Now next week, this coming week, I am going to see the film Tenet. Hopefully if that actually does come out. We're nearly there, so I don't see why it wouldn't at this point. Tickets are booked, so we shall see if that is any good. It's getting some fairly positive reviews so far from what I understand, but I will likely be doing a review of that once I've been to see it. So check back on the channel, Brand X Reviews. You can follow us on YouTube, obviously. Instagram, which we don't really use quite so much, but also Facebook. So if you want to interact with us or follow us, you can do so on those 3 platforms. But for now, I'm going to leave it there and say thank you very much for watching.